This is a description of the tool used to validate the map panel numbers in the acadb application with the acageo panel FRM table. So what we have is we have our production panel FRM table right here that's on the same host, geodb.adventurecycling.org. And it contains polygons that have this a file name associated with them. So they follow our standard naming convention, LC sec 02 FRM 34. So that's kind of the standard naming convention. And that naming convention is documented here in the acageo database documentation panel FRM table naming conventions right here to see that. So it's important to keep that up to date. On the application side of things, it's important to know that when you click map panels over here, this first view is looking at the map panel objects that are specifically in the acadb. So these that you're looking here and using to create correct muck attachments and things like that are only in the applications. They're not associated with the acageo panel FRM table. But because routes shift and panels change, we need to be able to have some way to associate those names in the database, in the services database, with the acageo database. So that's why we have this tool up here called acageo validation. So once you click this tool, what you're doing is you're doing like a join with the two databases running on the server, the acageo database and the ACA SVCS database, to match them. It looks very similar, but there's more going on here. So for example, let's look at this one. I was looking at Lewis and Clark section 2, panels 34 and 33. So you can filter by section, so we can go Lewis and Clark section 2 and click filter. Okay, so what we see here is two things. This first column over here is map panel, and this is reading the file name attribute from the acageo database. So this is some string parsing going on here that grabs all the file names associated with this section. So it knows the route, it knows the section, it's got this string in the file name attribute, and then panel over here is a string match with the acageo file name. So 21 here, and it says, oh, I also have a 21 panel name in the application with the same route and section, and I've matched it. This last column says needs attention, and this is a count of the services that are attached to the panel 21 object, map panel object in the database that don't match with the acageo number. So for example, we go down here to panel 33, 33 in the database, 33 in the acageo file name, and we see that we have two that need attention. So if I go ahead and click this map panel right here, I go to this sort of visual validation page. And what is going on here is we see a list of the services and the panel assigned to the service in the database, the service itself in the acadb application, I should say, and then up here is a printout of the acageo object that you're working on. So we can see that we're working on panel 33, and there are two services that have 34 assigned to them. And if it matches, it says yes. If it doesn't match, it gives you this big red box, and you can also click show on map to highlight that on the map. So we see Happy Camper Campground, and then we can visually see the ACRN tiles showing up here that should be up to date because they're reading from the production acageo database, that these two services are in fact in panel 33. So they're close. You know, panel 34 is coming in here, so this is where human intervention is important to understand whether the print map says it's actually on 34 or 33. It's doing the best job it can to tell you about these issues. But it's up to the human to figure out if they want to ignore this issue. Let's say it was a town right on the line and you actually did want it to be on panel 34, even though it's technically in panel 33. You could ignore this issue, but you can also batch change these to match the acageo number. So you can use these checkboxes to check both of these services, and then click this green button, Update Checked Items to Map Panel 33. So that will insert 33 right into the pivot table for these services, and they'll be good to go. So you can then go back to section validation, and the idea with that button is that you can see a section and you can see all the services that need attention. So if these all say 0, then you validated that section. If the matching between the acageo table and the database panel map panels is not perfect, and if it can't figure out a match, like looks like there's a space in here, right? So it's not matching 31A to 31 space A, it will show up as red. So in order to fix that issue, the best thing to do is to either create a new map panel to match this, change the file name to match this, or to edit this panel to be 31A instead of 31 space A. So these reds are just showing you that it couldn't figure out a match to acageo, and therefore it can't tell you that there's services that need attention.